Hi, I'm Matt Gomez, and I'm going to be presenting Nymphaea lotus for my focal species project. And some common names for Nymphaean lotus are Egyptian lotus, Egyptian water lily, white lotus, and tiger lotus. The white lotus is part of the Nymphaea family, which are commonly known as water lilies, and they are basal angiosperms. They're also rhizomatous aquatic plants, meaning that they have this kind of enlarged rhizome, which is a stem that's in the soil underwater. And in that rhizome, there's these gaps called aerenchyma, and the aerenchyma are filled with gases and air that are made through respiration. Uh, Gradually, air will escape through the plant, and if you had like a pond full of water lilies, you would actually see bubbles coming out of the water, and that would be air from the aerenchyma kind of being seeped out through the rest of the plant. The Nymphaea also have long petioles and flowers that float above water and petals that are arranged in a radially symmetric fashion. The white lotus originated in Egypt along with the blue lotus, and those were the two native lotuses to the region. In Egypt, they're actually commonly pollinated by beetles. Um, Another cool thing about these plants is that they are monoecious, so they have both male and female parts. They are perennials, so they survive longer than a year, and they are actually capable of both self and outcrossing fertilization. And that has a little bit to do with the way they bloom. So the white lotus is actually cool because it's closed during the day and it's open at night. And a reason that plays into the part of the pollination is because the first time the lotus blooms, it's the stamen actually don't release pollen. So if a beetle or any insect were to come by on a lotus that is blooming for the first time and already had some pollen on its back, it would outcross and cross fertilize the different lotus. However, after the first bloom, so second bloom and onward, the stamen do release pollen, and the lotus is capable of self-fertilization, through wind or through an insect spreading it around itself. Um, so gradually, the lotus was distributed, across East Asia through India, Indonesia, and China. But it wasn't until George Lotages came along in 1802 that the white lotus was introduced to the Western Hemisphere. The Lotages were a pretty famous family with a world-renowned nursery in London, and they had a large collection of exotic plants from around the world, you know, everywhere, pretty much. And after that, people kind of liked the lotus and started growing it as an ornamental plant, and it's kind of known as a metropolitan species because it's found, you know, across the world now. It's not really native to any region at this point. That's why, if it's not in Egypt, the lotus, you'll probably see it being pollinated by bees or flies or something like that instead. Another cool thing about the nursery was that it was so famous that Charles Darwin came by and he visited the nursery and, looked at all the plants. He thought it was a cool place. I think the coolest part about the lotus is its ties in Egyptian mythology. So, the blue lotus was actually bloomed during the day and it represented life, and the white lotus, because it bloomed at night, represented death. So for that reason, you'd see them a lot in Egyptian hieroglyphics and art depicting scenes of life and death and the contrast between the two, and they were actually kind of used to show a cycle of death and rebirth. Um, it wasn't uncommon to find white lotuses in people's tombs because they were associated with death. So there was lots of white lotus wrapped around in papyrus, actually, kind of like a bouquet, in King Ramses' tomb and other pharaohs that we've uncovered since then. I sent a picture of the tomb, and yeah, that's it. Here are my sources, and if you have any questions, I'll take them right now. Thank you.